I became full-blown into addiction, alcoholism at the age of 18. I started kind of go underground with my disease when Jenny and I got married.
I knew it was getting bad when I was in the hospital. My husband was tied to the hospital bed.
I have a long drug and alcohol history prior to that. A massive heart attack at the age of 26.
He had lost his job, lost our health insurance. He had left me. I had tried everything. I wanted my marriage. I decided to go to Al-Anon. That decision saved my marriage, changed my life.
I needed to find a way or I was going to die.
All right, that was tonight's guests, Boyce and Jenny King. I am Daniel Unmanageable. This is Hard Knox Talks, coming at you from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Treaty Number 6 territory and the traditional land of the Métis people. Let's bring in Boyce.
Hello.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Things are good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. You've been following along for a while and you've been commenting and really active in the community and stuff. And I'm really glad that we connected and was able to bring you on. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we get started tonight?
Absolutely. I have been following. I'm really grateful. I love what you do. I'm excited to share, my story of redemption and hope and, peace you can have through recovery. So definitely
Awesome.
Excited to be here.
Cool. Let's bring in Jenny. Hey, Jenny.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. No, it's really great to have a husband and wife team on here together that has sort of, been through it together. So is there anything that you'd like to say tonight before we get started?
I think the same as Boyce. I'm just really excited to be able to share a message of hope. This is a devastating disease, and I feel like I can offer some hope.
Awesome. All right, well, let's not waste any time.
This is Hard Knox Talks.
Okay, before we jump in, I just want to let our viewers and listeners know that tonight's live production is premier sponsored by Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups by Moms Stop the Harm. Boyce, where do we even start?
Oh, wow. It goes back to long history
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Tell us about how your alcoholism started. When did it start and why do you think it started?
Sure, absolutely. I started drinking, young. There's a lot of reasons I think for some of the trauma I suffered as a young man. That kind of plays a part in my disease, I believe, today. I also believe I come from a long line of alcoholics and drug addicts. I believe that there's a piece of it there, is the reason why I, ended up where I ended up. And,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like once I put a drop of liquor or a drug in me, it flips that switch and, I gets out of control. Then I do become powerless, so.
So do you think you were born into it?
I do actually.
Because I do too. I was craving alcohol long before my very first drink. I couldn't wait to get my hands on the bottle. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So as things went on in your life, how fast did things get unmanageable?
Well, pretty quick, I think I floated along for most of my, older teenage years into my first marriage. We were both heavy drinkers and partiers. I think I was in full blown addiction in those days, and drugs. There were a lot of drugs involved as well, but alcohol was my, main thing. But I feel like, I was full blown alcoholism by the age of 20. I just was what you would call, I guess, a functioning alcoholic, if you want to even say that.
So was relationships always a part of your life? Were you ever sort of dependent on having a partner?
Yeah, I do definitely believe that. I got married the first time at 21. I was with that woman for out of high school while she was in college. She was a little older, and I do feel like that. I feel like I have never been alone. I'm 50. Jenny and I just celebrated 20 years. So, we've been married, and I have been married pretty much, since a pretty young man. Yeah. So I do feel like I have some codependency there for sure.
So you mentioned in the intro there, in the recording we made, that your addiction sort of went underground when you met Jenny. Now, was there like, did you think like she can't know what I'm up to? Like, were you already at a place where you realized that this was a problem?
Well, honestly, when Jenny and I got married, I went from like, my previous marriage was, we were both restaurant people and we worked and partied and did a lot of drugs. And, that was my life. And then when Jenny and I got married, I realized that she didn't live that life. So I instantly, like, once I realized that I couldn't drink a liter of vodka every day and live in this community, I was dishonest really from the beginning with Jenny about my drinking. She really never knew, or at least I thought she didn't know how much I was consuming,
Yeah. Well, let's bring her in and ask her about when you guys met.
Absolutely.
Jenny, so tell us a little bit about when you first met Boyce. Did you realize that you were getting into something that might not be completely healthy?
I did have a clue when we would go to the store. Every time we went, it was like we are having a party because we'd have to have this giant case of beer on the bottom of the cart. I didn't grow up with a drinking dad. He was from a family that had addiction, but he didn't choose to use substances. So I wasn't used to it. And so there were red flags like that. A lot of our dates were at bars. But, he always told me that he could stop whenever he wanted to. And that he just needed it. He needed it to go to sleep at night. He needed it because he had a lot of anxiety. He needed it because he liked the taste. So I think there were a lot of red flags, but I was in denial. And
so why do you suppose you were in denial? I know we talked before the show and you mentioned that you wanted to touch upon why you made the decisions that you did, and it went back to your childhood. Why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about that?
I have a sister, and we grew up in a really nice neighborhood, and we had the white picket fence, station wagon, and it all looked good. Like I said, my father was from a family that drank, and it was socially acceptable to have that cocktail every day at 5 and then proceed into drinking all night. So when I saw Boyce, I saw something that was familiar because it's not just the substance use, it's behaviors that are passed down with addiction. And he just seemed like an instant best friend. But in school, I was bullied. And back then, you didn't call it that. There wasn't such a thing. But, flaming paper towel over the stall at a formal dance and soapy water in my eyes during lunch. And back in school, really bullied. So my self-worth was pretty low. Yeah.
Okay.
Feeling
So
rejected.
how long was it, Jenny, before you realized that this was something that maybe couldn't be ignored?
Probably when I told him he could have 3 beers in the fridge, and then I'd go off to work and notice that those were perpetually in the fridge, never touched. So, and then we switched to near beer or like the non-alcoholic, and those were being switched out for real, those kinds of things. So I noticed that he started to go underground. He started to take his drinking and hide it.
So, Boyce, what was it like for you now, was this something that Jenny tried to impose on you, or was this something that you said to Jenny to sort of try to mitigate the harm that was going on?
Probably both. I was, totally was not ready to stop. I didn't know how. I didn't realize how sick I was. I couldn't. I mean, I was a guy that would, in those days, even if I didn't have alcohol in me, pretty regularly, I'd go into the DTs and get sick. So I think it was both. I think she, I was trying to show her that I could drink regularly, by doing that by having that behavior. But at the same time, I had no intention of stopping, really.
So it was, what can I make Jenny believe, not
Absolutely.
How can I get better?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you were getting DTs.
Totally, 100%.
You're getting
pretty
DTs
young.
at this point.
Well,
and you still didn't think you had a problem?
I didn't realize then what it was. I would get, if I drank pretty heavily, and about around that time I went to hard liquor or vodka because you can't smell it, right? Supposedly. So, and then that made it worse. But I was get physically hooked on alcohol so bad when I would be sober for a while, then go back out and be sober for a while, just terribly sick, especially in the last few years. Like, I had to have a bottle somewhere. They were hidden all over the place and on our property everywhere.
Yeah. Jenny, did you notice that he was getting sick? Like when he didn't have a regular amount of alcohol in a day, did you notice that he was shaking and sweating and shucking around?
Yeah, I did. I noticed that he was more anxious and more irritable,
Mm-hmm.
and that he would be in a better mood later on in the day than he would early on. I noticed him missing a lot of work,
Hmm.
and saying that it was physical. Um, and then, we would go to the doctor and they couldn't find anything. Um, so yeah, I definitely did notice.
So Boyce, when did you, okay, so, oh, hang on, wrong one. I got a lot of buttons to push tonight.
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either, really, frankly. Like a deer in headlights, if we're being real honest.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. So, what was I going to say now? So it must have come at some point where you realized, okay, like this isn't just the flu. I'm not just getting sick. This is the alcohol. What was it like coming to that realization, Boyce? And did you tell Jenny?
No, not at all. I didn't tell her. I mean, I just didn't know another way. Like, it was, alcohol meant everything to me. Honestly, it really did. And it was more important than anything that was in my life and those years. I mean, I felt like I couldn't function without it. It was just like
You,
it was just like drinking water.
Can I interrupt for just a quick second? Because
Sure.
Jenny mentioned that you had been to the doctor a few times and nothing had been diagnosed. Did a doctor not know that you were consuming alcohol? Like,
I lied. I was never honest with any doctor, psychiatrist, you name it. I mean, in those years, it was until I started really actually having illness. It was
Mhm.
just a revolving door of me lying to doctors and just, completely in denial.
Mhm. Was there other substances as well?
Absolutely. Cocaine was my first heart attack. Is what was related to that,
Hmm.
mostly in untreated diabetes and other stuff. But yeah, a lot of stimulants in my story as well.
Hmm. So Jenny, you didn't grow up around alcoholism in your immediate family. What was it like when you found out Boyce was using cocaine as well? Like that's way out of your wheelhouse, isn't it?
Oh, way out, way out. It's terrifying. And the
Hmm.
behavior changes. It's like living with Jekyll Hyde. You just
Hmm.
never know who to expect. The inconsistency kept me walking on eggshells all the time.
Hmm.
And I started to become like hyper vigilant. And my focus was on him all the time. I I was watching what time he was leaving. I knew where he was going. I knew when he should be back. I knew where every single thing was, and that's all I could do. It was like an obsession, just
Hmm.
making sure that I had my eyes on him.
Hmm. I've heard many, many times from some of the rooms I've been in, the family can get sicker than the person struggling with substances. What would you say to that?
Definitely sicker. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was. I mean, I have, 3 kids that were here that needed to be attended to, and I did. But when I had any spare time at all, it was back on to Boyce, making
Hmm.
sure that I was controlling what I thought I could control.
sorry, just a
Go
quick
ahead.
question for Jenny. Did you at that time seek out any like peer supports, like Al-Anon or anything like that?
Initially, it's so shameful and
Hmm.
you feel so isolated that no, I pretended that everything was okay
Hmm.
because that's what you're supposed to do. You don't want anyone to see your dirty secrets and you think you can fix it all by yourself. It was when he was in his first rehab, actually hospital stay because of his heart, and because of his addiction, that someone said to me, "You have to go to the family program." And I said, "The hell I do. It's not my fault. It's all his fault." And I didn't take any consideration that I might be a part of it at that time. It was very new to me, and I blamed. And they said, "If you want to keep your marriage, then you'll attend our family program every Monday for 3 hours." And
Wow.
I wanted to keep my marriage, so I did.
So when you said you didn't think you were a part of it, you didn't think you were a part of what exactly? What does that mean? Unpack that for us.
I had no idea that I had choices, for one. The way I saw things is, you had to do things a certain way. And then also, I didn't understand that I had a part in the family dynamic, in the addiction that was happening, the disease that was happening in my family. I didn't know that I had a part. I didn't know that I had an ego, but I did. And I was blaming him for disrupting our marriage and causing all of the problems, when in fact, the obsession that I talked about, the focus that was outward on him, was just as much a part of the problem. It was causing a crazy cycle.
We've got a comment coming here from our friend Jake Grease. He says enabling. Like, did you ever enable his behavior in an effort to like make yourself feel like you were more manageable?
Did I enable? Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, that's the only thing I knew to do, was take care of him, because he obviously couldn't take care of himself.
Yeah. Boyce. Sorry, there's so many buttons.
That's all right. I understand. I'm trying to hold this wire real nice and tight.
You're doing a hell of a job. You're doing a hell of a
All right,
job.
cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really trying.
So now I only have 900 things to worry about.
Yeah, good.
So let's move a little bit forward here. Tell us about the day you made the decision, Boyce, to put it down. Was that choice motivated by something inside yourself? Was that motivated by you wanted to stay with Jenny? Like, tell us what that day was like and why you made the decision you did.
Well, there were more than one of those days in my case, so unfortunately, but I mean, the thing that clicked with me finally, and the last time when I finally was ready, which took a long time. I mean, I was around, the rooms of recovery in and out for so long. I had some sobriety, some years, and then just didn't stick. I finally, and you talk about consequence. I mean, you name it. That's enough said about that. I mean, a lot of us have that in our stories, all kinds of things. But I think that I finally just got to the point where I was just sick and tired. I mean, I was going to die. I knew I was going to die. I felt like, I knew I was going to die. I'd been on death's door so many times, and I knew I couldn't do it for Jenny. I tried to do it for Jenny and my kids and for a job for so many years, and just wouldn't work until I was ready for myself. So I think the biggest thing for me wasn't a crazy consequence. It was, I think I talked to you a little bit about it. It was a situation that was ugly here at home, and Jenny was a part of helping motivate me into that. But it was just, I was ready. I didn't want to die, and it wasn't always like that. So I feel like I had some kind of a spiritual experience at that point. Call it what you may, but and I got into AA. I do AA, and I really got in the middle of things for the first time for real.
Yeah.
So
do you remember the moment that you made the realization? Because like I don't remember the moment, but I remember the feeling, and like it wasn't as though like I have a problem. It was like, just like thank God. What was it like for you? Was it a relief, or was it like it felt like another chain got attached?
No, it was a relief. It was a relief when I finally was ready, when it was real. Because I was a liar. I didn't know what was real, what was reality. But I remember the relief when I knew finally I could get into the solution and stay in it. It was a feeling of relief. But then, as you know, and I've heard you talk about, like, that was a feeling of relief. But like then being sober was a whole nother problem. You know what I mean? So that's been where I've been the last several years trying to figure out how to live sober. You know, my drinking and using was the solution.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So
that's like one of my favorite sayings. It wasn't the problem. It was my solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go back to Jenny, I always like to ask, what was it like walking into the rooms for the first time? Like walking into AA? Like, did you feel like you walked into a home you never been to, or were you like, I don't want to be here. I don't need this shit.
Now, at first I was one that I didn't want to be there. You know, at first I was, I felt unique, like a lot of us do. There's old farts that would like sit up in the front and say all those things that I hated, you know, the cliches, and it works if you work on all that bullshit, you know. Like, you know, I hated those guys, but man,
keep coming back.
On fire, yeah. Right,
Screw you, keep coming back. I'm gonna come back, but not because you told me to.
yeah. That's how I hated that. I hated all those guys, but when you know, when my ass was on fire and it came down to it, I was like, I had some willingness, you know. I had to be willingness to be willing, and then it kind of popped, and I went to the other extreme where I was one of those guys, you know.
Oh no!
Because I used to do a shit ton of AA, and I love AA.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't go to the meetings that I used to. I feel like this is, you know, I mean, I love the program, but it's, you know, I have other interests and other things and recovery that I like to kind of pursue. So.
Were you the guy that would like stand up on the chair and be like, this is the only way, and if you don't do it this way, you might as well go out and die? Yeah, me too. I did that too. And like every time I get the opportunity to say it on a live stream, like if I said that to you, I apologize. I am sorry, and I'm glad you're still here with us, because I would feel terrible if someone made a poor decision as something I said when I was 5 minutes sober.
Yeah, there was a couple guys that I had no business trying to help. And you know, so.
Yeah. So, Jenny, did you start going to programming before Boyce found recovery?
Yes, I did. I had to save me, because there wasn't a me left. I had given it all away trying to save him. So yeah, I was in there probably a couple of years, and I would go. And they would educate me in a way that I had never gotten before. Just telling me about how I can help by letting go, which is an odd concept. But
can you unpack that a little?
I was taught to be a good person and to lay down my life for others and to give everything I have to help and to expedite change in any way I could. And I didn't understand that helping was controlling. And every time I stepped in the way of a choice that Boyce was going to make, I took away his dignity. And that's what Al-Anon helped me to understand, is even if his choices are messy, they're his, they're not mine. And I have to allow that so that he can grow, so that I can grow. But I didn't have that information, and I didn't understand. I thought every single time I fixed what had been broken that I was helping, and I was actually truly hurting him. So.
Wow. So did your relationship improve once you started buying into Al-Anon?
Yes, because I could start to mind my side of the street. I could start to try to find Jenny again, and not have to focus on all of the behaviors that I had been so consumed with. Yeah, definitely.
Boyce, did you notice a change in Jenny when she started attending these peer support groups?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Were you pissed off? Did it like make you mad?
I was totally mad. So because that crazy cycle that she talks about, I know this is just in my case, like, when she started to like, just when, I kind of enjoyed that negative attention. It was part of the game, honestly, but when she started pulling away from that, it's like, well, here, I'm going to be in the car and drive drunk. And she's like, all right, see ya. Like, I was going, what the hell's going on here?
Good luck, man.
Like, so, she talks about, like she almost loved me to death. Yes, I noticed it. And she's been around Al-Anon a long time, longer than I've been sober. Let's just say that. So
Mm-hmm.
when I'm in recovery, like, and I have years again and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's good,
Mm-hmm.
but she definitely knows how to take care of herself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part. I forced her into that, honestly, by being unreliable. So
Mm-hmm.
at times.
So I'm kind of
What people
curious
don't understand.
how that affected the dynamics within the family, like with the kids. Like, did your parenting change as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yes.
We can apply those principles that we learn in Al-Anon to the children. You
Mhm.
know, I can direct them and I can encourage their way to think, but they are their own people. And what I was going to say is, like, what I didn't know was Boyce was my drug. So, I had become addicted to control and trying to save my situation from the devastation. So, this definitely I could apply it to all things, work, my children. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your first experiences in the program. Did you get a sponsor? Did you work the steps?
Yes, we do in Al-Anon the same exact thing as AA. Yep, you get a sponsor and you write in a journal and you go through, and it's difficult, it's painful work, but
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it because you get to take those character defects and identify them, and then you get to work on letting them go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Actually, you know what? Now's a great time. We're going to just take a minute and we're going to hear a word from tonight's sponsors. So take a break.
We've watched our children walk away. We've felt hopeless, powerless. We are moms, stop the harm. We are not hopeless. We are not powerless. Stronger Together Canada is a national network of peer-led support groups to help navigate these challenges. If you're coping with a child's substance use, reach out to www.holdinghopecanada.org. If you've lost a child to drug poisoning or overdose, www.healingheartscanada.org. We're here to help, and we are stronger together.
All right. So let's talk about your first year in recovery. What was that like for you? Let's talk about Boyce now. Did you dive right into the steps? Did you get a sponsor right away? Did you buck the system? What did that look like for you?
Well, when I was finally ready and did it for real, what happened in my case was, I had some years of sobriety, but I was like a dry drunk. I wasn't working the deal. So when COVID hit, when that happened, the job I had, I no longer had. I'm a chef, or was, and so that kind of went away, which was great because I was so fried and so burnt and twisted, sober but miserable. And so I got a sponsor. And what happened for me is, here in my home alone, Jenny's at work, and I'm like, man, I can't go to meetings, I can't do anything, I can't go to work because I was a workaholic as well. I'm like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna go back out. So I jumped into the Zoom recovery and started working the steps quickly. I started listening to KDD Media. I found, and Jason LeChance. Like, I started following his stuff, and then I started following some guys named Chris and Myers Ramers out of Texas. They're like old school AA guys. And then I jumped into the steps. I actually got a chance to work the big book with Dr. Rob Kelly, he absolutely changed my life in that. I mean, we took months and months and read it line by line, the first 164.
I love Rob Kelly, by the way.
Yes.
He's like a Serenity bitch slap.
He definitely is. He definitely is.
I tell him that to his face too.
Yeah. He's been awesome with me. He took time and explained things to me I never saw in the material. Like, I've been around it, but I never really got into material. And then I got a sponsor on Zoom. Actually, my sponsor, his name's Greg R, and he changed my life. We worked the steps, and I'd done all this before, but nothing like I've experienced in the last few years. And it's changed me. It's been great. It's been awesome. But it has opened up a lot of growth that's bumpy for Jenny and I. it has.
So where did the rubber meet the road for you? When we're talking about the steps, everybody always wants to talk about step 4 and step 5. Where did the light start to come on for you that there was actually serenity and peace and a meaningful life out there?
Actually, for me, it's 10, 11, and 12, because I feel like those steps kind of flow together. Like, 10 is, I'm keeping my side of the street clean, and 11 is about my spiritual connection. And 12 to me is about service. And that's what's changed my sobriety, this time, in the years I have now, is getting into service and staying connected spiritually, and trying to be accountable, So
Does Jenny help you stay accountable? Or is she just
100%.
like, whatever, call Rob, do your thing. See you later.
She does, absolutely does. I mean, I'm hard, and I'm a hard guy to live with. So, she definitely does. She definitely does.
So when did you start to see a change, Jenny? When did the rubber hit the road for you as far as fellowship and the program goes?
Step one, knowing that I was powerless, was a huge relief. That, you carry with you that you caused this in some way, that I am contributing and making this happen, that since I can control it, I caused it. And when I realized that, no, I can't make anyone else drink. That's their choice. I think that was freeing for me.
Jenny got it in step 1, and Boyce didn't get it all the way till step 10, almost to the end.
We are opposites in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Jenny, to interrupt you. I just had to point that out for whatever reason.
No,
that's typical of our marriage. She gets it pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, and God bless her.
Yes.
It's very, very comforting to have a group of people that you can share your true feelings with and that get you. Because out in the real world, when you try to discuss addiction and the effects it's having on your family, they look at you like you are. And those rooms and those people are the people that understand and speak the same language. And that's the best.
Did you guys ever seek out like marital counseling or anything like that on top of meetings?
No, we did church thing, right? I mean, church, like real marriage groups, and we were able to facilitate in a real marriage group. Like we
Hang on a sec now. What is? Well, I've never heard of that. What is a real marriage group?
It's just at church we met with all kinds of married couples, and we followed a curriculum and share our experience. It's just kind of like a meeting, actually.
Peer support.
It was just regarding exactly
for
marriage. Yeah.
And sorry, how was your guys' experience received within the church?
Donna coming in hot with the hard questions tonight.
Hey, bring it.
Let's just put Jenny on full screen here now. I'll let her twist out for a while.
Do we have like a flashlight we could shine in her eyes as well, maybe? I'm sorry.
No, we go to a wonderful church. It's a huge church here, and they're very liberal and actually talk about addiction on stage, which is awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're very open to it. So
can I tell a funny story about that? It's not
sure
really
can.
funny, but so like this real marriage class he's talking about doing, we did, at that time, I had been in and out of addiction, and we were actually separated when we started teaching the class. So and they kind of, that sounds crazy, but they kind of embraced it, and it was a big part of healing for us. They kind of embraced we're like, look, this is real. This is what we have. And like, I'm living in my parents' attic at 35 years old or whatever it was, and they were like, you're what we're looking for. And so it was good. Every 2 weeks I go to see addiction therapist, big part of my program.
So let's talk about family for a minute here. You moved in with your parents. Where were your parents through all of this? Were they supportive of you, or were they like, oh my God, like what was that like?
They were okay with it. I mean, not okay with it, but like they enabled me. I'll just say they enabled me. They would always let me move back home, and live in their attic. So they loved me a lot. I'll just say that. So
yeah. Jenny, do you ever catch yourself falling back? Like, do you ever catch yourself like starting to control or starting to manipulate in some way, or eat this, don't eat that, don't go there?
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a PTSD to this
Of
after living
course.
with it for so many years. Just yesterday, we drove by UDF, which is in our town,
What's
and
UDF?
it's a convenience store. And so there was Boyce in the parking lot getting into his car. And I saw my children in the front seat roll down the window with the grandchild and wave like, hey, hi, Grandpa. And for me in the back seat, instant terror, instant. Why is he at UDF? What is going to happen? You just have those flashbacks. But that's what that peer support's for, is to remind you that even though you may have those thoughts come in, they can go right back out, because he's responsible for himself and I'm responsible for me. And I have to learn to trust. But it is a process.
Let's play devil's advocate here for a minute. Learn to trust what? I mean, in the intro there, you spoke a little bit about he lost your health insurance, he lost his job, that threatens your family's stability. Like, how do you be okay with that when it's happening? Like, did you have a contingency plan in place if things went all the way south, or what?
Yeah, probably I would have moved in with my mother. But I also was and am committed to this relationship, and I see this as a disease. So I know that sometimes there are setbacks in your disease, and that's how I view it, and that's how we expressed it to the children, that he was sick. And so it is difficult to trust, but I want to. And so I think I have willingness, just like Boyce talked about, I have willingness to make sure that this relationship is healthy, and I
Mhm.
want to do my part. So just like the thought comes in, to use, that thought's going to come in to me to mistrust, but then I don't have to act on that.
Mhm. Do you think that'll ever fully go away? Do you think that like you might come to a place where years will go by and you never like have that thought that maybe he's up to something?
It would be nice, and I would hope that would happen in the years, but to this point, it's still fragile. The amount of devastation that's occurred in the relationship because of addiction has been immense. So
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that in the years it will go away, to the point where it's not the instantaneous thought like that. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Boyce, what have you learned in watching Jenny work her recovery? Like, have you taken anything away from the way her behaviors have changed? Has it helped you grow as a human watching her evolve?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it has. It's taken a lot of pressure off me, because I feel like, those years when she's watching me and like talking about trust, like that trust for us is a big deal, and
Mm-hmm.
like our trust will probably never be the same as it was, I don't know, all those years ago, because of the way my disease, what I do when I'm in my disease. But I've definitely learned. I've learned what's really been beneficial for me is I have a daughter that's a drug addict, and I've learned watching Jenny, especially in the last couple of years. She may not know this as much as I'm saying around me, but I've watched her, how she approaches it. She's helped me deal with that. In general, like but it's as far as our relationship, it's definitely helped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the pressure off that I have to, I just got to keep my side of the street clean. And like what she's saying, like that whole thing with the UDF trip, we had that stuff's come up, and like, what I have to do is be able to step back and say, well, I'm not good at this, Daniel, by the way. I try, but
Mm-hmm.
I try. I have to step back and say, I have to give her grace, man, and I don't want to sometimes, because I'm like, what do you mean? I got all these years, but I have to remember, like, years and more years of that kind of behavior, and just the years of sobriety I have, I have to remember what she's gone through, and that doesn't always come to my mind
Mm-hmm. So,
first.
do you ever, looking back, okay, so Jenny has trust issues, and rightfully so, bad stuff happened, right? Do you ever
Absolutely.
look back and have trust issues that you think that she might be up to something as far as like trying to manipulate or control you?
Yeah, I do. I think sometimes, she doesn't even realize it,
Mm-hmm.
because she's just afraid. That's so funny. We just had it. We were talking about something similar that this morning, a very small thing. What is her motive, and how does that affect me? For me, I just have to stay in, like, always kind of remembering, like, my filter as far as, like, what she's been through.
Your
What I
side of the
put her
street.
through. Yeah, I mean, that's really what I really try to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you ever catch yourselves like giving each other program advice, like sort of like sponsoring, like in a way? Like, do you ever catch yourself?
Yeah, we've had that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it doesn't
really
go well.
see. I'm a program guy. Like, I don't go to the program like I used to, but like I love the program. The steps helped me immensely. I still reflect on them, all that stuff. Donna did not do those things. Donna found her own way in recovery. I've got 5.5, I think 4.5 year looking. Yeah, 4.5 years. So we have very different paths in healing, and I have to watch myself. Because like I will start like doing the thing.
Especially a few years
Absolutely.
ago.
Oh man, when she first came in off the street, I was like, "You're gonna die if you don't do the things." And it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
He's not even exaggerating.
No, I'm really not. This is Hard Knocks Talks. This is so.
Yeah, I think I've told Jenny. I think not too long ago, I said something about maybe you should go to a meeting, and that was just the wrong thing to
Ooh.
say.
My mom told me that yesterday. It pissed me the hell off. She doesn't care about my feelings either. So let's look at a couple of comments here. We got a comment from Becky. Becky, thanks for the comment. Becky says, so grateful to see the dynamics of recovery in a relationship. Inspiring to see recovery on this level. It's not just the substance abuser that benefits from working on themselves.
Awesome.
Definitely.
We've got another one here from Jake. The irony of this is so amazing for both addict and family member. We feel shame, embarrassment, and guilt. But it's truly shameless, empowering, and growth. And all latter three we feel none of.
Right. I do. I feel like, and I've shared this so many times, if you can get through to the other side, the wisdom that you gain is so unique. It's so special. So many people miss out on it, and yet they think that, all they see is the suffering part of addiction. They don't see the joy, the true transformation. And it's a gift.
It is, and it takes time to find. Like, it really does.
Yep.
When I've been in recovery long enough now to know that when hard times come, so shall come lessons, so shall come wisdom, so shall come growth. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, oh, yay, hard times are coming, this is amazing, I'm going to, I mean, you ask Donna here, like, when hard times come for me, like, it's not a pretty scene. Like, I don't handle it the best. And like, with the nature of what I do here, like, let me just show you, like, this here. I'm a welder, man. Like, I don't, I only do all of that stuff so that I can do the stuff that we're doing here now, so, but yeah, you know what? Here's something that we can talk about. Jenny gets to go first. Why don't you tell us about some experiences in your recovery that offered a valuable lesson? Like, what happened, something that was a challenge that inspired a lot of growth in you?
This is the most simple example, but it came to my mind at first, so I'll share it. I had told you I lost myself because I gave it all away to Boyce's addiction. Walking into the rooms of peer support, Al-Anon, we all have to say hello to each other, and we're in a circle. And having somebody care enough to say my name, if I, like, hello, Jenny, or I can say I'm Jenny, and they will answer back and greet me and just welcome me. It meant everything to me because I had lost everything. My self-esteem, my self-worth, everything just seemed to vanish. And just being around people who wanted to hear what I had to say, it meant everything to me. And that's very simple.
No, that's very powerful. The question that comes to my mind is identifying you as Jenny as opposed to what? As opposed to Boyce's wife?
As opposed to someone behind the scenes who is drowning, trying to make everything look like you think it should look when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't tell you that. You'll judge me because you will leave me. I've had, will reject me. Just having somebody say that it's okay, that I can welcome there, even though.
All right.
So same question. Tell us something that's happened in your recovery alongside Jenny that has inspired a lot of growth in both in your relationship and in the self.
I think for me, it's probably it's been over the last couple of years. Honestly, need to even give me trust to step away from a career that is the only way I've ever been able to make money, and to let me flow with what's happening is beautiful. And it's organically happening, and it's like it's not very safe at times. And really, just the fact that she's willing to let me do that. I mean, I don't say maybe let me do that, but to support me at 50 years old to chase some of those things is like, I can't think of a better example, and none of that happens without recovery and the 12 steps. Cause I'm the same as you. I like AA. I like everything that happens in AA,
I don't like everything that happens in AA. Cause there's assholes in AA. Like there really is.
Definitely.
But they're everywhere though. Like they're not just in AA, they're everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally, absolutely. But I think that sometimes people can get caught up in going to too many meetings and not get out in the community where the work needs to be done. And I feel like that her even giving me an opportunity to pursue some of those kind of things is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like building a hot rod and then never leaving the driveway.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Jenny, tell us a little bit about that from your side now. Boyce making such a change. Is it difficult for you to support him through that change? Like, do you ever have doubts? Do you ever have concerns?
On a personal level, this last year has been a nightmare. I had breast cancer and had to have a double mastectomy and reconstruction, and he was making that change. And the coolest thing that I can tell you, in the past, I would have just been biting my nails and just scared to death of what he was pursuing. And yet, because of the spirituality piece in this program as well, there was just trust. And I never thought about him taking my medicines that I had to have for pain. I never thought about him not showing up for an appointment or not being there to take care of me when I needed it. And I would never have had those thoughts before had he not, gotten recovery. Never. I wouldn't have been able to do it. So.
Did you ever think about taking the meds? Be honest.
Never.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. I had a jar of lorazepam I got at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was so scared, but like I was in a dark spot, and I took like 2 of them, and they sat in my drawer till actually just recently I pulled them out. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe these are still here, and I flushed them down the toilet.
Cool.
And that maybe that inspires a little bit about my own growth to say that on a live stream as a person that practices the program. Like I got 5.5 years in. I did that because that's what I needed at that time. It worked well. It did what it had to do, and I've carried on. So
absolutely.
I think we're just about done, but before we go into our final thoughts here, I just want to mention that tonight's episode is also brought to you in part by Prairie Harm Reduction in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, the Elizabeth Fry Society of Saskatchewan, and Prairie Sky Recovery Center in Leipzig, Saskatchewan. To learn more about our sponsors, get on our email list, check out our upcoming live and interactive streams like this one, and more. Check out www.hardknockstalks.com. While you're there, check out our shop, get yourself a t-shirt. So I think we covered a lot of ground tonight. Is there anything that you guys would like to touch on before we cap it off?
I guess I just say be as brave as you possibly can and have an open mind when you are in that situation that I found myself in, and reach out for help, because it's there. And there are people that are living the exact same situation. They're hiding it too. And they need you to reach out to form that community.
Cool. Boyce?
And can I say something? Yeah. So what I would say is what I found in recovery in the last few years is the service part of it. So I feel like people that haven't gotten into that or are in recovery and you're working the deal, get into service work, no matter what that looks like, because in my experience, it's changed me, because I was a guy that was in recovery, doing my things. And I never really took that part serious. But when I started to 10, 11, and 12, it's changed me. So I think that is, that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you both so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a great conversation. I really enjoyed that a lot.
Thanks, guys. That was really great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Well, thank you, Daniel, for being so patient with all my crazy texting and stuff like that.
I assure you, my
sorry.
crazy is tenfold
Okay.
when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Thank you. I love what you guys do.
No, and I thank you all for your support in the community. Thank you, Boyce, for always commenting and engaging and joining the conversations on all our posts. We very much appreciate that. We could not do that without engaging community members like you. So thank you. Jenny, thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us tonight. And we will let you go. Take care, my friends.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you're getting something out of what we are doing here, you can find all our audios on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or live and interactive right here on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch TV. Thanks for watching. Take care, my friends. We will see you next time.
Hey, this is Hard Knocks Talks.